Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing really your lunch. I am Hong from Asiacrypt, and since Seth cannot make it this afternoon, I will serve as the signature of the real-world protocols. So we have three talks, and each talk will have 25 minutes, including the Q&A. And our first talk speaker is Sandra Brush from Sandbox AQ, and his talk is named "To Attest or Not Attest." This is a question: Global attestation in FIDO tool. Let's welcome the speaker, Sandra Brush.
Thanks for the introduction. This is a joint work with my colleagues in the Nicola and some of you, and we are learning from the Dynamic University. Could you hear me well from my side? Yeah? So I'm going to talk about FIDO, which is a protocol for authentication, and actually it's a standard for passwordless authentication, driven by the fast identity online FIDO Alliance. And it's standard that is being widely adopted by multiple players in the web ecosystem, like browsers, platforms, and other entities. The reason why it's being adopted so widely is because the classical authentication solutions for web have their own drawbacks, no? I'm talking about passwords. Once you find a password that is complex enough to be secure, then it's difficult to remember it, and it's difficult to choose different devices. Of course, you can use a password manager, but then you depend on them for the availability of your passwords and also for the security of them, right? Also, passwords are subject to different attacks like credential stuffing or phishing, and you can try to mitigate all these issues by using other methods like or by adding things like authentication or OTP. But usually, what you are doing is to decrease the usability of the solution, and also you are still vulnerable to phishing, and you are increasing the surface of attack, because, for example, the users are receiving like multiple push notifications or SMS and so on, and usually this can be used for them, but also as a channel for misleading them into giving away their credentials. So FIDO2 is a protocol run among four parties. We have the user that tries to authenticate to a remote server. For that, we will use an authenticator that usually is a piece of dedicated hardware, and it will interact with the authenticator and the server through the browser or client. Okay. FIDO2 is divided into two sub-protocols. One is CETA, that is a sub-protocol run between the authenticator and the browser, and it's intended to make sure that only an authorized browser is going to be interacting with the authenticator. And the other sub-protocol is 2000, which is the one that we are going to be focusing on, and it covers the communication between the authenticator, the client, and the server. Okay. So FIDO2 also has two phases. In the first phase, which is the registration, the first line here, the user is going to register their authenticator to be used in a server. Okay. So that later on in the authentication phase, they are going to be able to use this authenticator to authenticate. In order to do that, during the registration phase, the authenticator generates a key pair, and the public key is registered in the server. And later on in the authentication phase, this authenticator will prove that it knows that secret key, the private key corresponding to the public key registered in the server, by signing acceptance. FIDO2 also has attestation. Attestation is a method for a system to prove to a third party certain things about its state. Like, for example, which has been the root sequence of this system, or which are the hashes of the files it contains, or which are the processes that are running. Okay? So the idea is that the system proves things about itself to this third party, so that the third party can decide whether to trust it or not. Okay? For that, we will need a root of trust or something that the third party can use to trust this message, this attestation information that is sent by the system. In Pilot 2, we use attestation to make sure that users don't use insecure or weak authenticators. So the idea is that these authenticators will provide in the registration phase information about which is the brand of the authenticator or the model, or which is the version of the firmware, so that the server will decide whether this authentication is this authenticator is valid or not to use for authentication. Pilot 2 supports several attestation modes. Some are more simple, some are more complex, and all of them provide different security and privacy. Let's see them. So the first one is attestation mode 9, which is that there is no attestation and database is protocol. Then we have the attestation mode cell, where during the registration phase, besides generating a key pair, the authenticator will use the secret key, the private key of the key pair, to sign the message that is sent to the authenticator, to the server. And also this message will contain information, attestation information, like the information as I mentioned before, about maybe the brand of the authenticator or the firmware that is run. Okay? And the authentication page is the same. So here in the registration, the server will use the information in the attestation message and the signature to make sure that the integrity of the message is present and to decide whether the authenticator is valid or not. Then we have the attestation mode basic, which is also known as batch attestation. And here we have two phases. In the online phase or during the manufacturing time, we have an issuer that creates an attestation key pair and certifies it. And it is stored in a group batch of authenticators. So let's say that every 1,000 authenticators of the same manufacturer will be sharing the same attestation. Okay? And later on the online phase, when the user is we are using it to register and authenticate, in the registration phase, the authenticator will use the attestation private key to sign the message to be sent to the server. Okay? And also it will attach the certificate created by the user during the manufacturing. So the idea is that if the server trusts the issuer that created the attestation key pair and certified it, then it will be able to verify successfully the modifications in the channel, of course. It will be able to successfully verify the signature and accept the registration of this. And then we have another attestation mode, where there are two attestation CA and anonymous attestation, but they are very similar. So I will be focusing on attestation CA. And here, during the registration phase, the authenticator generates on the fly an attestation key pair and asks to an online issuer to certify the company. And the same as before. Then the authenticator will use the attestation private key to sign the message and also attach the certificate by the issuer and send it to the server, the camera. Okay. So now that we have seen a bit about what is Pilot 2 and the different attestation modes that it includes, here is our contribution. So what we did is that we created a model that allows us to prove the authentication, security, and the privacy properties of Pilot 2, including all these attestation modes. And then we also proposed another one called Simple Token Weaver, which is an attestation mode based on a protocol, an existing protocol called Token Weaver, which improves on the properties of the modes that we have analyzed. The reason for doing this analysis of the different attestation modes is that what we saw is that in previous works, if you look at the middle of the table, so previous works analyze security or privacy for both properties, but just for one attestation mode, and always a different one, which made it difficult to compare, no? Which mode is better, no? So we thought that it would be nice to have like something that is some way to compare with them, right? And then also, if you look at the top of the table, so most of the analysis were focused on the authentication security, but not on the privacy. So we also wanted to take a deeper look into it. And additionally, we look into other characteristics like post-control readiness or post-compromise security, and I will talk about later the post-compromise security. So for the rest of the talk, I will talk first about this analysis of authentication security and privacy, and then I will talk about this view of this proposal of attestation mode called simple. So for the first one, as I mentioned, we created a new model in order to be able to analyze the properties of IDO2 comprising of the attestation modes. And it's an extension of previous works where we added two new phases, an initialization phase, where the different participants of the protocol run their initialization algorithm, and at the end they store some information locally. And then a certification phase where the authenticator and the issuer interact, and after that they also end up with some local information. And then the other two phases are the same as in previous works, where we have the registration phase where the authenticator, the server, the client and the server interact, and the same for the authentication phase. Of course, there's always part of the local status that is there. We also introduced the concept of groups. So a group of authenticators is a set of a group of authenticators is a set of authenticators that share the same attestation information, or we say the attestation material, which is some information that is created during the initial phase, and it's provided to the server during the registration. To give you an idea of what these groups mean, actually they have different meanings for each one of the attestation modes that we analyze. For the mode none or self, actually these attestation materials are empty. There are no common information among different authenticators. So these materials are empty and the groups are empty, or we could say that it's a group on itself. In the case of BASIC, a batch of authenticators that are sharing the same certificate of the attestation public key is going to be part of the same group. So, because we said in this kind of attestation mode that there is a key created and shared among a batch of authenticators, these are the ones that will belong to the same group. And then for attestation CA mode, here we have that a batch of authenticators or a group of authenticators are those authenticators that ask to the same issuer to certify their attestation. And actually will be the ones that have attestation is certified by the same issuer publicly, because a given issuer can have different public keys for different brands, for example. And then these are the security properties that we define in our work. For authentication security, we say that the website should be able to authenticate on behalf of any authenticator from a given group, provided that it didn't have access, of course, to this authenticator or to the internal contents of it, like they weren't linked, and also it didn't have access to the internal contents of any authenticator of the same group. And then for amicability or for privacy, usually in IDO2 it's defined in terms of amicability, and we talk of group amicability. And here we say that different registrations in one or many servers cannot be linked to the same authenticator as long as the adversary is able to distinguish between authenticators of the same group. If we are talking about authenticators of different brands, for example, the adversary may be able to distinguish. And this is a summary of the adversary capabilities that we consider in our definition and in our experiments. The entities that can be controlled by the adversary are highlighted in green, and as you can see, there are some asterisks because there can be some exceptions. But basically, for the authentication security experiment, we don't allow an active adversary during the initialization phase, but we allow it for the amicability experiment, and the issuer cannot be corrupt in the authentication security experiment. So I will go into a bit more detail on that. For the authentication security, we allow the adversary to create new authenticators and new servers that are going to be initialized automatically information about system user, like a couple of key. Also, we allow the adversary to be active in the three phases of certification, registration, and authentication, so we can eavesdrop messages but also modify them. And then also we allow the adversary to correct authenticators. And I forgot to add here, but so to correct authenticators except those that are in the target group where we don't want the adversary to be able to impersonate authenticators. Okay? And also the adversary can get the issuer command. And then for amicability, we allow the adversary to initialize issuers, authenticators, and servers, and participate also actively in all the steps in initialization, registration, and authentication. Also, the adversary can corrupt authenticators, can get the internal information of authenticators, except the two of them that it is trying to distinguish between in view, and also can get the information, internal information from the issuer. And then, well, these are the results of our analysis. At the beginning of the presentation, that long, like double the time, where we had the experiment, but yeah, if you have any doubts, we can also discuss it later. But the results that we achieved are the following. So for NAND and cell, we actually couldn't fulfill the authentication security definition that we wanted. So we had a weaker one where we only allow a passive adversary during registration. This makes sense because there is no signature of the registration information from a root of trust that the server can verify. So it's like, and the adversary can modify the registration message, basically, if we allow an active adversary. And then for the attestation CA mode, we also had to create had to consider a weaker notion of unlinkability for this mode where the adversary doesn't have access to the internal information of the issuer. The reason is that in attestation CA mode, the issuer can keep track of the attestation certificates that it is issuing for the different authenticators, and later on, this can be used to identify authenticators that want to register. So basically, it seems that basic is the attestation mode providing the best security and privacy guarantees. However, we weren't totally convinced because we saw a main weakness on this attestation mode, that is that because we have a batch of authenticators sharing the same attestation keys, in case you compromise one of them, and leak the attestation keys, then all of the authenticators of the same batch are compromised automatically. And because these devices are used by end users, imagine which would be the drama in case you have to replace and present these new hardware tokens to the users again in case there has been an issue. So we thought that maybe we could do something better. And this is when we proposed this simple token waiver protocol. So the idea in simple token waiver is that we have a batch of authenticators that share the attestation keys as in basic. But actually, they are not created once in the manufacturing time and then that's it. They are updated periodically. So what we have is that during manufacturing time, the issuer will set a one-time token in each one of the authenticators, and later on, which we are like the authenticators have been already distributed and everything, the issuer will be issuing periodically attestation keepers, new attestation keepers. And the authenticators will use these one-time tokens in order to get them, and then use them as in the other mode that to sign the registration message. So the idea is that in case one of these authenticators is compromised, the adversary will be able to get the current attestation keeper and also the one-time token that can be used for getting the next one, right? And then if this happens, there can be two situations. One is that In the next period, the adversary spends the new one-time token to get a new attestation keeper. And then if the honest user tries to use it because it was a one-time token, it was already spent and it will be detected. We will receive, the user will receive an error. So in this case, at least the attack is detected and the user would contact the issuer through another channel in order to get this token and this authenticator revoked. But in case it is the honest user, the one who requests the new attestation keeper first before the adversary will be left out because it's the user the one that will be spending the token. So we analyzed also these attestation modes in the river and it fulfills the authentication security and immutability definitions according to the conditions of the book. Thanks to these periodical keys and these one-time tokens, we also get a way to recover the security properties in case one of the authenticators of the device have been corrupted, no? Which is providing post-compromise security. And yeah, that's it for the talk. I will be very happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Okay.
You said if one of the authenticators is corrupted in the secret store, you have to replace all of the same authenticators in the same group. Why is that? So, I mean, it's only the attestation key that we need, right? So the rest will still work and be secure.
That's a good question. So this is because we allow, we consider an active adversary during the registration phase. Okay, so if the attestation keeper has been leaked, the adversary that is in the middle of your channel when you are trying to register would be able to, for example, register another public key on behalf of yours because it has the attestation key to be able to resend the message. So it would be able to register other public keys for the users and be able to later on impersonate.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
So usually, the requirement for FIDO is that, or what we have seen in previous books, is that once you have registered your authenticator, and if that was trusted, if there was no active adversary in that case, then nobody else should be able to use another authenticator to impersonate. But we were trying to extend it and like what happens in the case of an adversary that is present during the registration phase. I'm not sure if that is good.
Yes.
Yes, of course, yeah. Yeah, the idea is that these authenticators usually are actually trusted hardware, right? And and they should be protected. But for example, later on, and I don't know if you are know about this space or not, but there have been a lot of talk about passkeys in the context of FIDO 2. So passkeys, what they are now trying to enforce is that these keys are not bound necessarily to a trusted hardware, but actually these keys could be handled by your phone or by by a password manager. They can be synchronized between devices using something similar like a Google password manager and things like that. So in this case, you don't have the assumption that the key cannot be leaked. It's a bit stronger because of that. So you don't have trusted hardware always. I hope here I use the trusted hardware because it's a more conventional scenario, but it doesn't have to be.
Final question.
Okay, thank you for the talk. And have you compared the attestation protocol in FIDO 2 with other attestation protocols such as direct anonymous attestation in TPM?
Good question. So actually, the attestation CA protocol here, it's very similar, or it's taken from the specification from the attestation in TPMs, but it's not the direct anonymous attestation. We started looking at that because we thought it was super interesting, but it turns out that FIDO abandoned the direct anonymous attestation protocol, so they don't consider it anymore. And we actually wanted to see if we could find a way to do it post-quantum and nice for FIDO so that they can trade product. But it's something that we would like to do, but it's not part of this analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's send the speakers again. On the next talk, we will start with several keys, analysis, improvements, and security proof. Speaker is David Bravos from India Software Institute. Welcome, David. Okay.
So hello everybody, thank you for coming. My name is David Bravos from India Software Institute in Madrid. And I'm going to present this work that is called WhatsApp with 7 keys, analytics improvements, and security. And you can know what? Because I don't know. Okay, so this is the work with colleagues in Thailand who are students in both. So this work is on security messaging, which is something we're very familiar with. It looks like this, right? This is a couple of screenshots from the popular messaging on WhatsApp that gives a title, so to speak, to this paper. And in the left, we can see a few users interacting in a group of conversations and even just each other. On the right, we have a group of users that are the only ones that are supposed to be reading the messages of this thing. And here, we have something that says encryption. So encryption is what is ensuring that in reality, all of these users and not anyone else are actually the ones that are able to decrypt this thing. And if we read the message carefully, it says, messages and calls are encrypted, tap to learn more. So if we tap to learn more, what we should get to understand what this encryption is about is the formal security, is the formal description. But unfortunately, that's not something that we get. We do get some information, but perhaps not such a. So this is something that is necessary. And when encryption can mean many things, it can hold under many different conditions. And in general, it's something that is also playing by the protocol. But formal verbal analysis is something that is lacking more than expressive. And this is somewhat problematic, especially for users. So there are some examples. MLS is a good example of what to do. MLS is a joint network between academic industry, and it has very formal groups, it has a lot of theoretical analysis. It's also a complex program. But the problem with MLS is that it's not deployed yet, at least not widely. We expect that it will be in the coming years. But nowadays, what we're really using, among other things, is a protocol that is called Sender. This is the protocol that goes on WhatsApp group chats and Signal group chat as well. In 2021, we were using our protocol. And so far, there has been no formal analysis of this. So let's look a bit more at centerpieces. So centerpiece is a protocol that is for group messaging. It's characterized for its efficiency. It has also a very simple approach to messaging. And as I said, it's using WhatsApp and Signal, but also it's implemented in some other variants, some deviations from it. The core idea is the same in Matrix, in Session, and in some others. So it's really widely deployed. So to encrypt and to send messages to the group, instead of having a common group key, the group participants have unique keys for each of them, for user keys, that they share with everybody else. These are symmetric. So you can think of the group key as being n group keys, which each key corresponds to one user. And let's see how this looks like. So if you look at the state of Alice, Alice has her own key, the key of Paul and the key of Charlie. These are all symmetric keys again. And to encrypt, she will just take her own key, sign the ciphertext, and then send this to the server will deliver to Paul and Charlie. And then since everybody has a key from everybody, they will be able to do it. So you might be wondering, how do they agree on this key, right? Because there must be some kind of way in which they distribute security. There's no clear agreement here. And this is done by relying on two-party messages. So sender keys in order to work means that there are authenticated confidential two-party channels, two-party messaging channels that are already running between every pair of users that are in it. And that's how they distribute the keys to each other. This is the general overview. We'll go more into it. So now that we've seen this, let's look at what we could expect from an end-to-end encryption messaging service. In general, we expect some basic stuff like correctness, authenticity, confidentiality. We also expect that it works when users are offline, that security doesn't break, which is also a minimum requirement. But in the literature, there are already a few notions that are standard. One of them is secure membership, which means that cryptographic adds and cryptographic removals should be effective. So if you leave a group, then you should no longer have the keys that the rest of the group is using. Right? And if you are added to the group, you shouldn't be able to learn previous messages that the group were sending. So that's a minimum requirement as well. And then we have forward security and we have post security, everybody knows standard, and refer to what happens with the security of your keys before and after them. So if you make compromise at some point in time, forward security says that the keys you used before should remain secure. Post-compromise security says that if you do some kind of key update, then the future keys will be more secure. So after seeing how the protocol works, it's not formalized, and that we want a few requirements for messaging, there are a few natural questions to ask. The first one is whether we can actually formalize this protocol, improve its security in a meaningful model. And with a meaningful model, we really need, let's take it on the properties that we described, formalize it well, do it in this way. And second is, we will find efficiencies in this protocol. Because I can already tell you, we will find a few. Can we fix them? Can we improve the protocol while keeping its efficiency and while not changing the core structure of the protocol? So this is what we do in the work. We first formalize sender keys. We introduce a new formalization, a new framework. We do this to deviate from MLS and CDK because of this characteristic of using two-party channels that I told you that is really present in other group messaging protocols. We also propose a security model that captures this interaction. We carry out the group security. For the group security to work, we have to restrict address in several ways. With this, we identify user connects in the protocol. And finally, we propose a new protocol that we by sender keys plus, and that improves not only the security, but also the efficiency of the regional securities. Also mentioned something very important, which is analyzing matrix, and arrives to, I said, it's a similar protocol to sender keys, and it arrives to similar conclusions than okay, so now that we've seen the interaction, let's look at the formalists. So let's start looking about the formal treatment that we do the protocol in this paper. First of all, you already model sender keys as a formal protocol, but we need a second framework. And again, we found that CDK is maybe not the best framework, so we went for a minimal primitive that has all the basic algorithms that any group messaging protocol. So these are an algorithm for sending messages. This algorithm takes a message, takes the state of the user, which is known by gamma, is the play of the keys of this user, and outputs a cyphertext that can be later related. We have a receive algorithm that takes a ciphertext and outputs a message, and also some additional information such as the sender and the time, or some indication about the time when this was sent. And then we have algorithms for making group changes. The first one is a spec, which takes a command and a list of identities. So the command can be either create a group, add a new user, remove a new user, or update a user's keys. And then it executes this change and outputs a control message. The control message is also broadcasted. And then we also need to process this control message. Simply output 01, we are set. Okay, so let's look about more in detail about what happens when we are actually sending and receiving, and then we will look at how group changes. So again, we go to the three-party group. We have Alice, and Alice is going to send a message. So in the class, you can see the state of every user. The state of Alice is composed by these signature keys, and by these CK, which are symmetric keys. We call them chain keys, and you will see why in a second. These are not the keys that we're using for encrypting direct data messages, but for deriving keys. So Alice, the first thing she will do when she wants to send a message will be to obtain a fresh part of the keys. She will apply a key derivation function to her own chain key to obtain a message key that is going to be the one used for encrypting, and then she will ratchet forward a chain key for forward security. Now she will immediately delete the old chain CK. She will only keep CK. Why is this done? Because if an adversary now comes and compromises Alice, then this adversary will learn CK from prime that there is no way for the adversary to come back to this. So CK was secure. And this is actually a nice way to achieve forward security, which is why now we standard as well, and it works pretty well. So to encrypt, we essentially take this message key that we just did. We sign the message, and we send this to the server. The server can distribute the message, and since everybody has a key from everybody, they can do exactly the same. They derive the message key, they derive the new chain key, delete all the keys that they are used already, you don't need them any longer, check the signature, and then you do this. So let's see now what happens when we want to make a group change. And for this example, I chose, let's see what happens when we remove a user. So this is perhaps the most complete example that we have. So let Alice now try to remove Charlie from the group. The first thing that Alice will do will be to erase her state. This is because we want the cryptographic removal. We want Charlie to have no access whatsoever to any secret that will be still used in the group. So Alice can just erase it. And this is what she does. And she generates a new chain key and a new chain key. And these are sent to both over the two-party channel. Remember that we said that we had a two-party channel running between all groups, right? So with this, a control message is delivered. The control message indicates to the group that Charlie is being removed. The server is broadcasting this. Charlie is receiving this message so that he knows he's been removed from the group. Both receives this message as well and reads the two-party channel with Alice. It does the same, it arranges all the keys, takes Alice's new keys. And if you look now at the state of Charlie, it's completely useless. There's nothing in the state of Alice, nothing in the state of Paul that Charlie can do. So Charlie is effectively removed from it. And this is also, if you think about it, a nice way to update it. If you want to do an update of your keys to obtain compromised security, that's the way you do it. You just sample a new pair of keys and you distribute them over this two-party channel, and then you recover the security of the protocol in case your keys are. Is this the case? We need to be a bit more careful, because what happens is that these fresh keys that we're sending are not perfectly secure. They are cryptographically secure. And in particular, they are encrypted under some words. In reality, these keys are going to be another messaging protocol. They can be the double ratchet, which is a common choice, we see them in practice. And we have to be careful because if Alice is compromised, or both is compromised, and then they get something that they over the two-party channels, the adversary is also going to be able to read these keys. So the channel not necessarily heals the group. There is an interaction between this two-party channel and the group that we need to model carefully. And we model this interaction by using the primitive and referring to these two-party channels as a standard. So this is primitive. We parameterize it by some delta that we call PCS bar, which refers to the number of round trips that the conversation needs to heal between the two parties. Delta is usually 3 for the double branches, for example, which is already been studied in previous. Okay, so actually, this thing of having two-party channels that can be compromised the same way as the group can be a bit problematic in practice, because if you think about it, now you're in a group with multiple users, you have to have double branch sessions with everyone. And this makes a complete job. So you have square number of sessions and the number of participants. When you're in a big group, you don't talk individually to each of the persons that you're in a group with. Very often, you maybe talk individually to a few of them, but you never exchange messages with all of them privately as well. So these channels can remain stale, and they can, not repress their keys for a long time, and this can create a problem because you can have all these running their years and mean a problem for the security of it. Okay, so with all of this in mind, let's look about how we actually prove the security of the kernel. So in order to prove security, first thing we need to do is to introduce the security model. So for this, we rely on the previous work, we do it from a message distinguishable security game. So our definition is game-based. We have an adversary that can play the group by some oracles, and in particular can expose users at any time. This can follow forward security and post-compromise security. It can also forge and inject messages. And then the winning condition is that the adversary needs to either win a semantic security game, indistinguishability, message indistinguishability game, or to forge a message successfully. To avoid trivial attacks and also to capture in a fine-grained way the security of the protocol, we parameterize this game by a clean string. So we say that the adversary only wins if the execution of the game has been clean. And this cleanness is really going to tell us to what extent the protocol is secure and under which. These are the oracles that the adversary interacts with. I will not go into detail, but as you can see, they are the usual oracle. So with this, we arrive to our main result, which is our security proof theory. And essentially it says that if we assume standard security of the cryptographic building blocks that are used in the protocol, then we can actually show that sender keys is secure. But to do this, we need to put heavy restrictions. Sure. Maybe not so heavy depending on how you look at them, but a few restrictions on the adversary that are definitely not needed or should not be needed. And the way we should interpret this proof is that the core of the protocol doesn't have any blocks, but we still have to be careful and it still presents some drawbacks when we want to use it. So the limitations that we observe are a few. I will go on my own. The first one is that the healing is quite slow. This is something we already mentioned with the white channel because they remain stable and so on. But it's also because since we have a quadratic number of two-party channels running between every pair of group members, then updates take a long time and a lot of communication is. We also have an assumption that is a total ordering of control messages. And this means that all the group changes have to be applied in log step, one after the other. If there is some deviation on this matter, and this should be a deviation that occurs at the server level, so if the server is an active adversary, a network adversary, then we don't know what happens. We don't know what security we get, and there is no guarantee that. In MLS, there is some analysis, for example, about what happened when kind of prove this. There is also no authentication for these control messages, and this allows the server to mount some funny attacks to the group. For example, to add someone to an arbitrary group, or to censor a person and make it look like this person left the group, whereas nobody removed this person. This was observed in previous work already by about that, but we formalize it also as well. And then we also observed some weakness in forward security in terms of authentication, So to fix this, what we do is to propose and formalize this sender key class, and we improve on the following aspects. So we propose a better update mechanism that brings the complexity of the updates from programming down to limit. We improve, of course, the authentication for control messages, that's very easy to do. And we also apply techniques to improve the forward security for authentication. We improve this protocol security, and we actually think that it would be a nice protocol to deploy in practice. So I will go directly to my notes. Just to summarize the talk, we present a new modeling of messaging that captures this interaction between required channels and groups, and which can be interesting for general other real-world protocols. It's a new approach in the literature that derives from CDN. We show that sending keys is probably secure, but the model is suboptimal, so there is still some limitation. We show an improved version of sender keys that has better security and efficiency. And finally, we want to make a statement on if you're going to use two-party channels and in a group protocol, then be careful to refresh them often so that the keys don't become stable for long. Also, there is this question of future work that, as the reviewer pointed out, is the elephant in the room, which is what happens if this total order that we assume the control messages is not violated, and whether we can design a more secure useful protocol that handles this kind of functionality. So that's all on my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Actually, we have two questions. And the first is that if you remember, there's a distinguished table in this outline that discloses some vulnerabilities in matrix. So is it related to the sender keys or not related?
So I'm familiar with this work, but what I understand from it is that the vulnerabilities were fixed in a version of matrix, and then matrix adopted some version of the protocol which is actually closer to this version of sender keys that we analyzed. And then that's why this paper that I mentioned on work comes. So after matrix fixed the things that it's the same thing. So after matrix fixed these things, they managed to carry out the security for matrix.
So they become the sender keys after they fixed it.
I think they were already running some kind of version of sender keys, but they fixed the things that were not working. So they kind of redesigned the few aspects of the protocol, and now they can actually do it.
And my second question is that we often think that in improving security, we will introduce some extra costs, so the difference will reduce. But how do you improve both security and efficiency?
So the improvement of security is by adding a couple of signatures and maps in places where they should be and they are not. And that's really sort of standard and not expensive primitives. And then the improvements on efficiency come because we managed to bring down the complexity of removes and updates from the beginning. So if before taking a user needed, like removing a user needed everybody to sample new keys and to send them to each other, this was for the implementation. Now, with only one user doing this, we came out with a mechanism that allows us to do it.
Okay.
So that's it.
Hi. Would you be able to give a brief explanation of how you managed to go from the dark to linear?
Sure. I have the slide.
I saw that.
So So the idea is that before everybody had to send each other. And now the main idea is that for a party to be removed, You just need to change all the changes. And then what you can do is that Alex, that is the person that is triggering the update or the removal, can send the symmetric secret to everybody, the same secret over this two-party channel. And then everybody can use the same symmetric secret to ratchet. They don't need to apply different secrets because everybody knows it is from everyone. So they can use the same thing. And then we avoid everybody that everybody has to send this. This creates a problem, which is that nobody knows which moment of their key to ratchet, because you can maybe be sending messages in between and create concurrency problems, like when you get the update, you send messages to time or keys and so on. But then we come up with a synchronization mechanism which essentially involves ratcheting a large number of times and then synchronizing. So that's it.
Okay, let's send the speakers again. Now let's create the fusion keyboard of HTK speaker is John Seth from Rural University Bochum. Come to speak.
Thanks for the introduction. This work is about the pre-shared keyboards of HPA, and this was a joint work with Alvin. I can hear this. Okay. We'll talk. We'll first talk about what HPA is, so the Internet Standard Hybrid Public Encryption. Then I will talk how we model the pre-shared keyboards of HPA. Then about security rules, and in the end, I will briefly discuss post-quantum security. Okay, so for this Internet Standard HTTP, you can think about it as a CAN framework. So we start with a key encapsulation mechanism, then we have a key schedule KS. And this produces from the CAN secret a symmetric key. You can think about it as key derivation function. And the symmetric key is then used to interpret the message. And the ciphertext in the end contains of the ciphertext CAN as well as the ciphertext. And this was published from C in 2022. And has already been used in some applications, for example, extension of GLS and as well for messaging and messages. Okay, and the standard HTTP comes in 4 modes, and I will briefly explain these modes. And the first mode is the base mode, and in the base mode we have the sender, the setting of the sender receiver, and the sender was to send message to receiver. It's just like normal PE, so encrypt the message to the receiver and the receiver. So the second mode is this. So in the base mode we have sender keys, we have pre-shared keys, and primitive messages, how they de-encryption. For the second mode, the authentication mode, here we have in addition an authentication from the sender, so that the sender has own secret key and public key and encrypts the message. Secret key to authenticate to the receiver, and the receiver can verify this with public key sender. Okay, and here, so this mode has now sender authentication, the location key, and the primitive is an authenticated PKE, and this was this mode was already analyzed Europe 21, and they showed confidentiality and authenticity. of this one. I'm not going into much detail about the insider and outsider model, but you can think about this like encryption. The insider model is a bit stronger. The adversaries also corrupting some of the secret keys, but they were only for them it was only possible to show insiders and stronger model and agility, but only authenticity in the weaker model because there's actually an attack against HPKE in the strong. Okay, the third mode is the PSK mode, and here now comes the pre-shared key. PSK into place, and the PSK is a pre-shared key that both the sender and receiver have before the execution of the actual code. So it's a semantic key. So the first idea is why you need now a key primitive if you already have a pre-shared key. This is symmetric. That's a question. So the idea of the RC is that you have kind of an additional layer of security. So you can rely your security on this pre-shared key or on the public key primitive. And so the encryption is done now with the pre-shared key as well. Encryption with the same one and authentication and correctness is the same pre-shared. And for this mode, we don't have sender key anymore, but now pre-shared key. There was no analysis of this so far. And for the last mode, this is the off PSK mode, which basically combines the mode. So we have still now pre-shared key, but as well an authentication from the sender, own sender key. Yeah, here we have both sender key authentication as well as a pre-shared. And yeah, this is the mode where we're analyzing the security, and this is exactly where our main contribution comes in. So first of all, we want the syntax for this primitives, which we call PSK PKE or authenticate PKE for the form mode, as well as modeling the security and doing security for these two modes. So syntax and some of it you've seen before. So for the PSK PKE, we have two generations, one for the asymmetric part and the other one for the pre-shared key. And the encryption takes, in addition to the PKE, the PSK and the encryption is the same piece. And for the authenticated variant, in addition, the encryption is standard secret key and just a verification. Okay, for security, I want to start. I want to give only an example of authenticity because we have, as you can see here, 4 different notions for security. As an example, I want to give authenticity, and I want to start with the one from the previous paper analyzing HTTP, the Europe 21 paper, and from there I want to show what we did to model the pre-shared key. So for the outside authenticity, or this is now from APKE, we have kind of an unfortunate game. So the adversary gets multiple public keys, multi-user setting, and has access to different oracles. First of all, encryption and decryption oracles, normal usual manner. And in addition, an oracle to corruption oracle to the secret, so to corrupt some of the users. And eventually, the adversary outputs cybertext and winning conditions. And for this primitive, the winning conditions, cybertext has to be expression knowledge or the output of encryption oracle has to verify it. And since we allow corruptions, the sender secret key, which corresponds to this challenge, must not otherwise. So that's it. Okay, and building up on this notion for the ESK primitive, we have two differences. So first of all, we also have the screenshot key. So we provide adversary information oracle to allow also the corruption of visions. Now for all the secret key of users and as well as the vision. And the win condition changes now that we do not allow the adversary to corrupt those, but then send it as well as the vision for a challenge. So if we corrupt both, then it's again a clear win, but the scheme should still be secure if one of the keys is corrupt. And this is with respect to design criteria that it should be like different layers of security, and if one is broken, is the security system. Now to the security clearance we showed. So this is for clearance. So for both the primitives, we showed composition clearance, how to build them from the components we've seen in the beginning, and schedule them. And for the first one, we show CCA security for potentiality and often security, which similar to what we've seen for the authenticity. And for the PSK keys, the notion of couple. So here we have this inside outsider model again, and it's similar to the previous paper from Europe. We can also show inside CCA security for fidelity and this outsider notion for authenticity. Also the same attack and applied to this PSK. Okay, now let's take the course of the action models. So this is a figure you've seen in similar manner in the beginning. And just so this is just the PSK mode. So the PSK comes into place in the schedule. So the schedule not only takes the shared secret from M, but also the pre-shared. And the then is replaced by AE, authenticated encryption with assisted data, because this is how the RC concept. Okay, here we have the appearance first for confidentiality. So to show CCA security for PSK, PK, we need CCA security for N as well as for A and E, and the key schedule in the middle has to be a dual pair. And for accessibility, it's similar, just like the ciphertext is that which we for the A. Okay, so what's different for auth mode, the auth PSK mode? For the auth PSK mode, we have the standard authentication, and this is done in the RFC with ACAN as the first component. So about this ACAN, you could think of, so this stands for authenticated CAN, and you can think about it like CAN plus a signature, for example, as generic, so generic construction. So this also takes the secret key of the sender as an input, and yeah, our heroes rely on security notions ACAN, and to obtain inside SSA security, we also need inside PCA security for first report from the A. And for authenticity, to get, as I said before, on this outside out notion of the PSK, APPD, both PCA security as well as auth security for this ACAN. And but as well also only in the outside set. Okay, so this was the security for generic composition theorems, but now let's take a closer look at the actual RC specifications. So here we have these three components, and then let's now take a look how they are defined. So for the pen in the PSK mode, this is just the basic development pen. So we have QCCA security. For key schedule is based on some implementation on HMAC, and this is also a group your HMAC. And for the AEP, this is instantiated either with ASTCM or Chachapuri, and these are both in CPA as well as inside the basic package. So with these three components applying our theory tool, we can show the small sections in scale. And for fourth mode, the only difference is ACAN now, and the ACAN is basically an adaptation of the development, and this was already constructed today, was already inside the CCA also constitute, which is quite meaningful. And the other two components are the same. So using usually components and security for this. Okay, so for the last part of my talk, I want to tell you about post-quantum security of HPPT and also using HPPT. So first of all, if we want this HPPT as such is a classic speaker. But if we want the post-quantum instantiation from HPPT, we will have my primitives to be post-quantum secure. First component, and for the pen, we have already some components that are being standardized for the authenticated pen. This is not a standard primitive, it's not easy to find such constructions which fulfill the security requirements to YouTube. That's why we came up with two constructions for such an ACAN, which can be instantiated. So these are black box constructions that we can instantiate them from post-quantum primitives. And the first one is rather a generic one, that uses a candidate signature basically. And the second one is based on the Nike exchange, and that's or this can be instantiated from quantum assumption. Include these two constructions to be secure in the second. Okay. For the last part, I want to talk about something a bit different, and this is about the classical post-quantum pattern. And so what do I mean by that? So the idea of classical hybrid or combiner is to get PKP or authenticated PKP from classical as well as from post-quantum assumptions. And so this can be useful for practical applications to build out systems which are secure in the future against quantum adversaries, but can still rely on some classical assumptions which are better studied relatively quantum assumptions. And so one idea to build such a hybrid is to construct it from scratch directly, but what we propose another maybe more practical approach, and this is to use the PSK mode. To use the PSK mode basically is like in a plug-in manner to combine post-quantum can, for example, and is able to get such a classical post-quantum hybrid. And this can be done like this. So we have the table HTTP, and the key schedule takes here the PSK. And the idea is now to replace this PSK by an additional ACAM, so that the key schedule now takes the shared secret of the second CAM, and right, and the ciphertext also ACAM ciphertext of the second ACAM. The idea is that this can be easily used for practical applications, because now I can just take an implementation of the PSK HTTP mode, which is already in the library, and I can also use the post-quantum and just combine these two, in there, and don't have to construct the new. And we also showed for this construction. So the result is here. The 1.8 PKD, same goes for 0.2 PKD. And so this is security with the two components. Key schedule A here is the secure, and one of the this is exactly what we want such. Let me summarize contribution. So first of all, we model the security for these two primitives, these pre-shared key primitives, and prove the security of the pre-shared key modes of HTTP. We introduced two post-quantum constructions for authenticated defense, and finally show that we can use this for private quantum security. Yeah, you can find the full paper and
Do you have any questions? Thanks for the center. One construction we had about Aiken, was quantum Aiken, was based on Nike. How do you instantiate Nike in post-quantum setting?
Yeah, that is a question. So thing is, so there's one Nike. So we need for this construction, we need active security. So what we rely this construction on is last year. They built an passively secure Nike use physics. It's called Scrooge.
Was the paper you referred to?
It was CCS 2020. Or 24. Next year.
Yeah, thank you.
But that's a good question, because like the active security is crucial in that sense. Otherwise, the construction.
Do you have any more questions?
I want to ask, what is real labs and how this will be such a
Yeah, it will be that means basically that you have not only the key but also the input, and both for the PRF, and both can work as the key. So it's a PRF, either the key or the actual input are really from PRF. So like a PRF.
You mean either input or the output function is pseudorandom.
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of the input or the key. So any of the components can be like function as.
And why this helps to achieve the final security requirement?
Yeah, this we need because because we now have two inputs to the key schedule, and we want that if either one of the keys is or either one of the APIM construction is secure, then the key schedule should output something that is random, pseudo-random. So if in the beginning we don't know if the APIM or the APIM prime here is broken, so yeah, the key schedule should output something really pseudo-random if the key K or the key K prime are really broken. And the other one can.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, question.
Thank you for the talk. I wanted to ask something about the auth mode, the pre-shared keyboard. So you said that you get very strong confidentiality like inside of CCA, but for the auth you get outside of. Would it be possible to get inside of somehow by making small modifications, or is that?
Yeah, so the first observation is that, I mean, these three building blocks are instantiated in a specific manner. The first thing is it doesn't matter how they are instantiated actually, you can never achieve insights independent of the actual instantiation. About the modification, that's actually also a question we work on. It's not that easy. I mean, you can achieve this because there are also encryption where that achieve inside out, so this is possible. But it's a bit far away from the actual HTTP. So with easy modifications, I mean, I don't want to rule it out, but
Okay, I want to end the session with a new Habermas question for me. We all know the base mode, and we know the necessity of auth mode, but when do we need a PSK mode? Why is it necessary? Can you point out an example? Where is it needed?
I can answer. I have to say, I don't know. So I know that. I mean, for the TLS extension, I think it's the out mode, so there's not the PSA mode. So most of the applications I know of HTTP actually using the out mode, that is true. I know that in libraries there are auto modes are implemented. Yeah, I'm not sure about it.
Might interpret confusion.
NLS? Okay.
Let's thank the speakers again. We're going to add on to the